Hello, everybody, and welcome to our next Organic Week webinar. And today I am coming to you live from Ottawa, the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe and Algonquin peoples. My name is Tia Lofsgaard, and I'm the Executive Director at the Canada Organic Trade Association. I welcome you to our 14th year of running Organic Week activities nationally across the country, celebrating food, farming, and the wonderful people who are involved in this, including, of course, Mother Earth. So today we are going to host our next webinar, which is titled What Makes Organic Organic? And we are going to be joined by the lovely Roxanne Beavers. And just to highlight that Roxanne, of course, has a wealth of experience. So we've welcomed her as an expert here today. She is a senior reviewer with Quality Assurance International, which is an organic certification body. She lives in Peterborough, Ontario. She holds a Master's of Science, which is focused on agriculture from Dalhousie University, and she gained some excellent experience working on research with the Organic Agriculture Centre of Canada, which we refer to as the OACC. She is an IOIA trained organic inspector for farms and handlers in Canada. And Roxanne has been a member of the Canadian Organic Standards Technical Committee, which is where we develop the organic standards for Canada, and is the current vice chair of the board for the Organic Material Review Institute. So I would like to just move on to the next slide before we hand it over, just to do a shout out to our sponsors. Of course, Organic Week is not possible without the generous support of all of these wonderful companies and brands across the country, and retailers and distributors. So just a big shout out to them. Today's session is being recorded, so we will be taking questions and answers via email at the very end of the presentation. Once Roxanne wraps up, we'll be sharing with you an email of where you can send us your questions, and those questions will get responded to directly by Roxanne. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Roxanne, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Tia. It's great to be here, and I'm super excited about Organic Week and getting to talk a little bit about what we do. I'm going to share my screen. Looks good. All good. All right.
You need to go full screen.
Uh-oh. Wrong screen. Let's try that again. There's the right one. Is that good?
Very good.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And thanks again for having me. So what I would love to talk about today is some of the interesting ways that we work as a certifier in organic, and how you as a consumer can ensure that the food that you're buying and eating is actually organic, and how you can trust in the system. So we hear lots of questions about the integrity of organic certification, whether you can trust the process, what it really means. So today I want to talk about some of these questions, how to determine if a product is truly organic. What do you need to think about with imported organic food, if you can trust that it's truly organic? How do you know that an organic operator is following the rules and meeting the standards? And also some nuances about our Canadian system, like why can't I find a certified organic lip balm that's covered by the Canadian standards? What are some alternatives for those products that can't be certified to the Canadian standard? So I'm going to teach you how to be a food detective and figure out the organic best products to source for your own use. Today, I'm also going to be using some acronyms likely. So sometimes I'll say CORE, which is the Canadian Organic Regime. That's the combination of the Canadian organic standards and the regulations that make them enforceable. And I'll talk about a certifier, which is a certification body. This is the agency that actually does the approval and review of an organic farm or processor or product. So Tia explained my background, and I've been working in this area for a very long time. Currently, I work with Quality Assurance International. I've been here for 8 years. We're an organic certifier, and we certify to both the Canadian standards, but also worldwide, to the US standards, the Mexican standards, the EU standards, and we have a personal care product standard as well. We also have other standards that we can certify to. But my love is organic, and the reason that I work in organic is because I have a lot of trust in the system. I find that people come to organic in different ways and for different reasons. I primarily started trying to source organic food for environmental reasons. But a lot of people are looking for reduced pesticides for their health, fewer food additives, a way to support small farms and diverse growers, a way to eat products where you can trust the system is verified when they're being imported. You can't go to the farm. Animal welfare. I find organic is a really good choice to meet all of these goals, and the integrity of the system is very strong. But as a consumer, you're probably wondering, how can I trust that this is actually compliant? And how do I know that it's even an organic product? So I'm going to just run through, if you're in a store, how can you determine if a product is an organic product? And then we're going to talk a little bit about the system in place. So if you're at a grocery store, you pick up a product, there's a lot of different logos, there's a lot of different certification schemes out there that are all potentially certifying to different things. But if you're looking for organic, the main thing you need to check for is the certified organic by statement or the organic certifier on the package. So this is your guarantee that it has been certified by an accredited certifier. So you may also see a logo for the certifier, the QAI logo's down there. There are dozens of certifiers who work within the Canadian regime, and there are also international bodies that certify in other countries where we would accept their products as organic, which I'll talk a little bit about later. So you will find this typically on the ingredient panel or near the company address. And if you're wondering if a certifier is legitimate, you can actually check this CFIA link, which we can open up right now and have a quick look at. So the Canadian Food Inspection Agency reviews and approves organic certifiers to make sure that they're all following the same rules. And they have also asked that all organic certifiers certifying to the Canadian standards have a list of certified operators on their website. So it provides some transparency as to who is certified organic. So this website you can access, and it lists certifiers worldwide who are able to certify to the Canadian standards. I'm just going to scoot down here to go down to my certifier to show you that if you click on this, you will see the contact info, the accreditation info, which is like who's approving, that we are doing the job we say we're doing, who's making sure our quality is high. And then if you click on our website or the website of any certifier certifying to Canada's standards, there's going to be a way to look up the products that are certified organic. So if you have questions or doubts, or you are just, for instance, looking for a certified organic family or something unique, you can go onto any of these websites and search up the specific product or the specific business. So if you want to do that, it's quick and easy, and I would encourage you to do so. The other certifiers will also have the same sort of list. And if you're buying something from the United States, they have something called the Integrity Database, which also allows you to do this search. But honestly, if you see this certified organic statement, that is a guarantee that the product has been certified under the Canadian system or an equivalent system. The second way, if you're out shopping at the farmer's market, obviously you're not going to necessarily be buying a labeled product. So you can ask, if you're working directly with a farmer, to see the farm's organic certificate. We were a certified organic small farm. When I sold at the farmer's market as a certified grower, I would typically have a copy of my organic certificate, just in case people asked. And it's going to list the types of products that are certified and grown by that operation. If you're buying like unpackaged products in a store, usually produce is going to have a sticker or a tag, And if it references the organic status, it should list the certifier as well. Oftentimes you're going to see a number on these, produce tags. If it starts with a 9, that indicates organic. Organic bulk products in a bulk food store may or may not be labeled with the certified organic status of the original supplier. It's not a requirement, but you could certainly ask at the store where the product is from. But again, not a requirement. So that's something where you would need to inquire directly with the store. The third way, and I think a way that a lot of people would rely on finding organic products, is to look for an organic logo. So the Canadian Organic Seal logo is up here on the right-hand side. And that indicates if a product is certified organic to 95% or greater organic content. And this is a terrific way to find organic products. But I want to tell you that the use of the Canadian logo is optional. So you may still be purchasing a certified organic product made in Canada. They don't have to show the logo, but they do need that certified organic by statement to identify the certifier. If a product is imported from another country, it can still show the Canadian seal, which can be, a little bit confusing. But what is required is that either the country of origin or the term imported has to be shown in close proximity to that Canadian logo, because, we're seeing a maple leaf, we're seeing the word Canada, you're automatically thinking it's a Canadian product. All that is saying is that this has been certified to the Canadian standard or to an equivalent organic standard. So you can trust that it's an organic product. So there's a second category of certified products called 70 to 95% organic content or made with organic content. So these can still be certified organic, and they can still make the claim of contains a certain percentage of organic ingredients. They're still going to show a certifier name, and they're still reviewed to the same high standards that other organic products are in terms of, the types of ingredients that can be used and the certification of the organic ones. But you can't use the core logo because it isn't a 95% product. So you can check again for the certifier. Other organic logos can be used too. So you often see likely this US logo, which is the USDA Organic, the National Organic Program for the US, or the EU logo on products. And so the reason that you might see these logos are because we have equivalency arrangements with other countries. This is basically where we are in agreement between the two governments of each country, each jurisdiction, that our standards are close enough. They might not be exactly equivalent, but they are close enough to allow trade with some conditions. So you may see a organic product, you probably have seen, where they have the Canada logo, the US logo, the EU logo, and you might be thinking like, this seems kind of crazy, but what they're saying is that this product would be considered organic under any of these regimes. So don't use it as proof of origin. You can use the US logo for something that you've made under the Canadian standard that because of equivalency. So it could be sold in both markets. Note that with the EU seal, typically there's a number and a letter code underneath it. And that's actually a way that you can identify the country of origin of the product. So for instance, if it's something coming from Canada and they're showing the EU logo, they're going to have the term CA, which is Canada, and then a few other numbers and then a code to identify the certifier as well. So these logos still indicate that you're buying an organic product. When you pick up an organic product, much of what we eat now is a processed or a packaged food. And so, there are things that you can look at on the label that will confirm the organic status and give you more information about what parts of it are organic. For processed foods, we have very specific standards about what ingredients can be used and how it can be made. And so, QAI as a certifier, we mainly certify food processors. So people who make cookies and granola bars and jams. And so we are checking all of the information for the organic ingredients in the product. And those are going to be identified on the label of an organic product. If you have a non-certified product that uses organic ingredients, they are technically allowed still to identify them, but only in the ingredient panel. In an organic product, you also may see non-organic ingredients in use. They can be up to 5% of an organic product or up to 30% of one of these, the 95 to 70% organic status. And so there's a really restricted list around which non-organic ingredients can be used. There's no synthetic flavors, no synthetic colors. The list is really restricted to ingredients that are kind of necessary for the production of products and that have been very minimally processed, typically. These non-organic ingredients can never be genetically modified. They can never be made with nanotechnology, no irradiation, no sewage sludge, and never from a cloned animal. So as a certifier, we're in there checking documentation, making sure that the ingredients that are used align with what the standards require. And so when you get this jam, you can tell, first of all, that it's an organic product because of the use of the logo. You can see that it was certified organic by the use of the certifier information here. And you can look at the ingredient panel and see that the organic ingredients here were organic raspberries and organic cane sugar. And then here, there's also pectin, ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C, and citric acid. So these are non-organic ingredients, but we know that they are going to make up less than 5% of the composition of this product. And we also know that we, as a certifier, verified that they were permitted for use and they met all of the requirements I just talked about. Another question I often get is, what about brand X? Maybe there's a store brand where you see that they have got their own organic line. And you might be wondering, is this actually legitimately organic? Why, where is it coming from? Why does it all look the same? And so the way that this works is that some organic companies are unique. They might have their own factory. They might make all their own products, but many products are made by what are called co-packers, which are basically contracted manufacturers who are making a specific product or a specific type of product for a variety of brands. And they may be using the same ingredients. They might be using different ingredients, but they also need to be certified. So it's not required for a brand owner to be certified. It's definitely required for the food manufacturer to be certified. However, oftentimes brand owners will get their own certification, so they can use the same certifier logo, they can have a similar look on their labels, and they can enable the traceability part that comes from having a certification. If the brand is certified by, EcoCert, and the manufacturer, the co-packer, is certified by QAI or ProCert, that's okay, because the certifiers will work together to make sure that both parties are providing the information we need to certify the products. So, if I'm certifying a brand owner, what they're doing is they're getting a product, they're ordering a product from a manufacturer, then they're receiving it and they're selling it. And so we're going to check all that information at the brand owner. We're also going to check their labels, because typically the brand owner is the one who has the control over the labels. We want to make sure that they're accurate and clear for that product. And we're going to assess, the purchase of their products, the distribution of their products, and the sales of their products to make sure that all of the information is disclosed and can be trusted. So, and we need to also confirm that the products are certified organic by the other certifier, who is the one who verifies the manufacturer. So that's how that works. So things that are made in the United States and exported to Canada, they are considered organic and they are okay for sale in Canada under the US-Canada equivalency arrangement. So when I mentioned these before, I said that there are some things, some components that we look at slightly differently with some of these arrangements. And so for the US, we have what are called critical variances, where we need to confirm a couple of things before we import product to Canada. And those things are that we don't permit the use of hydroponic or aeroponic growing methods. There's a type of fertilizer that can be used in the US in a very limited sense for organic called Chilean nitrate, but we don't permit that in Canada. Most other organic standards don't permit it. So that is another critical variance, no produce grown with Chilean nitrate. And then the last piece is that the space requirements for non-ruminant livestock, so typically poultry and pigs, need to be similar to Canada's requirements. For Canadian products that are being exported to the US, there's another critical variance. The US will not accept products, dairy products typically, if there has been any antibiotic use. So we do in Canada permit a very limited amount of antibiotic use, mainly for animal welfare reasons. But there are strict requirements on how long an animal has to, the milk has to be withdrawn for a certain time period. So if you meet either of those restrictions, you can export to the other country. We check that as a certifier. And another interesting piece is that in Canada, you saw perhaps on that website that I pulled up earlier that we can use the Canadian standards around the world. So other certifiers working worldwide might be certifying, a company in Thailand to confirm that they're meeting the Canadian organic standards. The US can do the same thing. So it's entirely possible to have an equivalency between countries, and so it doesn't strictly apply to Canada versus the US. And actually, our Canadian standard is used mostly in New Zealand, India, Mexico, Thailand, and Colombia to certify. And those products can easily enter Canada. We have other equivalency arrangements in place. And so you may see products that are coming from all around the world that are imported to Canada as organic products. There is more scrutiny on international imports, even with the equivalency arrangements in place. We want to make sure that the rules are being followed. And the governments are also monitoring each other's standards. So they will be checking by doing a peer review. So CFIA will actually review another government system. The reports are all online. They're going to be monitoring any changes in international standards. They're going to be looking at enforcement and making sure that the level at which the standard is applied is equivalent to what we do in Canada. In terms of certification, so, if a product is being imported to Canada and used as an ingredient or being sold on the market, we would be looking to see that all of the documentation is identifying the product as organic and that it's traceable to the original seller. Some countries would require very specific documentation around this. In Canada, we have an electronic system called the Automated Import Reference System, I think. And so now it is requiring that importers will be uploading organic certificates when they import an organic product. So similar to other electronic databases used in other jurisdictions. So that does provide more traceability. Our other arrangements are with these countries, with Costa Rica, the UK now, not the EU. We have the EU and the UK, Switzerland, and then Taiwan and Japan. And there are a few more arrangements in negotiations between South Korea and Mexico. So if you're getting a product from any of these other jurisdictions, any of these other countries, it's more likely that it is certified to like either the Canadian standard or to the NRP and imported under that equivalency. So all of these pieces have to be assessed. And so, the chain of custody of the product needs to be very clear to import an organic ingredient or an organic product. We need to have traceability in place all the way back to the original organic supplier, the original organic farm, really, via some kind of system. So sometimes it's a lot number. Sometimes it's another unique element. Coffee often has bag marks, which can be used to trace a shipment. All of these things need to be supplied to ensure that the product remains organic. Typically, though, there's an importer or a broker in the middle of this process. More often now, you're seeing that some of these operations are getting their own organic certification. So that's terrific because it provides another layer of assurance. If they themselves are not certified, though, we would need this Canadian coffee roaster to be getting all of the import documentation to confirm the organic status of the product, the amount shipped, when the change of ownership happened, and then any records from the importer that might show what happened at port. So sometimes there are pesticide treatments that happen at port or at import, and so we would need something like a phytosanitary certificate to make sure that the product wasn't treated, depending on the type of product, right? All of these things need to be supplied to the certified organic buyer of the product in Canada to confirm that the integrity has been met. If there's any storage happening, we need a warehouse affidavit to make sure the warehouse knows that it's an organic product. If there's a shipment happening, we might be checking to make sure the clean truck affidavit that the trucks are clean. So lots of different components here to check on site and make sure that the value chain is not negatively affecting the integrity of the organic product. So I didn't go into any detail about certification. There's lots of information out there about it. But I mean, this is very simple, overview. As a certifier, we would receive an application. We would ask for more information about the way that you make your products or grow your products. And we would ask for a plan about the types of things you're doing on your facility or on your farm. We would then assign an inspector who will actually go on site and make sure that you are doing what you said you were going to do, and that you're following the standard. QAI is going to review the report that's submitted by the inspector. Then we're going to either ask for more information, or we're going to potentially issue a non-compliance, or potentially we're going to provide your certificate right away. The certificate can be provided after the non-compliances have been resolved, and that's how it goes. But this middle piece, the inspector, is a really crucial part of how we assess organic integrity. Basically, they're the eyes and the ears of the certifier. We spend a lot of time reviewing records and talking to operators, but we're not there on site. The inspector is the piece of the puzzle that is able to, see how all of this fits together. We really value the inspectors that we use, and I really feel like they're a crucial piece of the process. We try to hire inspectors who've been trained by the International Organic Inspectors Association. The website is there. It's a great place to go if you are looking for, a new direction in life. Organic inspectors get to learn a ton about the kinds of farms and facilities they work on. We try and find inspectors who are very familiar with the type of production that they are reviewing. So they need to have really specialized knowledge. They might need to know about the condition of an animal. They might need to know about, what a crop would look like if it was healthy versus not. They might need to know about how to clean a specific type of processing equipment. So that comes with time and experience. And the inspectors we use need to already apprentice with an existing inspector. And we do provide ongoing training. So it's a really important piece of the puzzle for us. They are going to be going on site and checking a lot of the what are called organic control points, kind of like critical control points. So when you go on site, specifically at a manufacturer here, you're going to be checking records. You're going to be talking to people, and doing interviews with people on the factory floor to make sure that they are doing what, the application said that they would do. And you're also going to be doing a lot of visual observation. You're going to be looking at equipment and looking at, the types of systems in place and saying, hey, is this going to be stored in a way that keeps the product safe? Is this type of equipment able to be cleaned effectively? Do they have the right kinds of cleaners on site? So with processing, you have to make sure that organic ingredients are being used and the approved non-organic ingredients. You have to make sure also, though, that the product is being stored and the ingredients are stored in a way that won't allow contamination. The inspector is going to check the pest control practices in place at the facility to make sure there's no risk of pesticide contamination. If a facility has to be fogged, for instance, how are they removing the ingredients to make sure that they're not contaminated? How is the facility being cleaned? How do they clean the equipment? If they're using a sanitizer that doesn't get removed, how do they make sure that that doesn't contaminate the organic product? Canada has actually a pretty strict list of the types of sanitizers and cleaners that can be used. So it's we're trying to look for things that are preferred cleaners. And then there is an exception if you can't clean your equipment with the kinds of allowable ones to use something else. But those are exceptions, and those require justification, they require removal, and they require that you have neutralized this other cleaner that is used to make sure it doesn't cause problems with your effluent discharge into the wastewater. We also look at things that are used in steam additives, water treatments, and then there's the records. On site, the inspector is going to check the production records. They're going to check the purchases of ingredients, the sales of products, and they're going to make sure that everything aligns. So your operator is not selling more than they could have conceivably made, to double check to make sure that there's nothing fraudulent happening. They're also going to check things like training records and complaint records, lots and lots of records. But yeah, so it's a combination of records, interviews, and visual observation. They happen every year, and they can also happen before a new line is added to a facility, or if you add a new building, we're going to send an inspector out. They're unique in terms of not focusing on, many food inspections or facility inspections relate to human health and product safety, product quality. Organic inspections might use some of the same documents. We're going to look at your standard operating procedures. We're going to look at the records of production and the records of inventory and sales, but really our focus is on making sure the organic product has been protected through this whole process and balancing out the purchase and sale of ingredients and finished product. Inspectors in organic also, they're telling a story. They're not making a final certification decision. They basically provide a snapshot of the facility during the inspection and what they see. Then they report to the certifier, and the certifier issues a decision or a non-compliance letter. And that's consistent across organic systems around the world. We also have the option of doing, and the requirement actually, to do what are called unannounced inspections. So this is, the inspector shows up at a farm or a factory in the morning and says, hey, I'm here, I need to see this, this, and this. And when you sign a contract to get certified, you say that you will allow this to happen. Unannounced inspections are a really good way to check up on an operator and make sure that they're doing what they say they're going to do. They might be random, or they might be targeted if we have a specific concern. We can also do sampling. So sampling and testing for pesticide residues and GMOs is not something we do for every product. There are operators actually that do a lot of their own pesticide testing. We use it as a tool when we know that there's something that is at high risk of being contaminated, or if we have a specific concern. So we also do random sampling actually as well, just to check up on an operator, maybe follow up on another test. CFIA also does this type of testing at the retail level. And so if contamination is detected, it launches an investigation. We work with CFIA, we work with other certifiers and try and determine exactly where it came from and how, can we resolve the issue? How can the operator fix it? Typically contaminated products, if they're above a certain level, can never be sold as organic. They might be able to go into the conventional stream depending on the level of contamination. But yeah, so that is one reason to do pesticide residue testing. And I would say typically there's not a lot of, oftentimes when I'm doing these reports, it's a non-detect, which means nothing was found. And then when detections occur, we take them very seriously. All right, so the last part of my talk is about things that are considered out of scope in Canada. So Canada is limited to only certifying food, feed, livestock feed, and seed. And the reason for this has to do with the kind of regulation that our standard falls under. We are under the Safe Food for Canadians Act and regulations, which is a food-related standard. So we now have actually aquaculture standards, which is really cool. However, we're kind of stuck when it comes to products that fall outside of this scope. For instance, natural health products, pet food, textiles, personal care, and cropping inputs or production inputs can't be certified organic. Cannabis also can't be certified organic. There are some private standards that exist. Many of these products, actually everything that is listed here, with the exception of inputs, can be certified to the National Organic Program, the US standard. So that's often what we see. There are, other international organic standards out there that might be used, but typically, the National Organic Program is a sort of verifiable, reliable standard if you're looking for one of these products. And you can have, we certify operators in Canada who are making things like pet food or natural health products, and they get certified to the US standard and sell it in Canada. So it's an alternative that works. For the time being, hopefully Canada will at some point get our own standards in place. For cannabis, it's not possible. The NOP can't be used, the Canadian standards can't be used. So you may see private standards from certifiers. I know there are a couple in place that are certifying to a standard that is similar to organic. Supplements and natural health products are kind of an interesting one. So these would be things like vitamins, but they're also things that make health claims, other products that might be used for health reasons. We certify an operator in Canada who makes tea, and they have a tea that is regular tea, and it makes a food claim, and they can certify it under the Canadian standards. The same tea is in a different package and makes a health claim. It has a NPN, a natural product number, and it is not able to be certified under the Canadian standard because it's considered a natural health product. So that gets certified under the US program, the NOP. My kids' gummy vitamins are certified under the NOP. Those are out of scope products, but if you're looking for a certification, you can still buy them as organic, just not Canadian. Textiles are also certified. They can be certified to the US program or other international programs, or to something called the Global Organic Textile Standard. And actually, I think there was a talk last year on the GOTS program. So that's another good choice if you're looking for organic cotton or wool. Personal care products are also out of scope. So things like cosmetic and beauty products aren't covered by the Canadian standards. Some of them are able to be certified to the US program, the National Organic Program, but it's a little limited. So things like lip balms or body oils, simpler products, I guess, might be certified organic. There are other standards out there that verify organic content and also would make sure that the other ingredients that are in use are less processed, I guess. So we have a program at NSF that we administer called ANSI NSF 305, and it will allow the use of some alternative ingredients, but it requires that they're minimally processed and not petroleum derivatives. For instance, the organic standard really is designed around food and food ingredients. So there are other ingredients out there that would be needed in cosmetics, but still would be fairly, low risk and of little concern. So these ones we would verify under this program, and it's okay as long as your product contains at least 70% certified organic ingredients. There's other standards, similar standards for beauty products. There's one called Cosmos, which is administered by EcoCert or by the Soil Association. So I think those are two very good choices if you're looking for organic personal care. Processing aids and crop and livestock inputs. So these are things like compost, like additives you might give to livestock in terms of health additives or nutritional supplements. And then some things that are used in food processing that are not certified organic themselves, but might be permitted for use. So these can't be certified as an organic food product, right? But they can be reviewed and approved for use. So several certifiers in Canada have a voluntary program where, folks can apply to get their compost approved for use. And it kind of streamlines the process down the road should somebody wish to use it on an organic operation. I want to talk a little bit about OMRI, which is the Organic Materials Review Institute. I am on their board right now, but I've worked, with producers who've used OMRI approved products, OMRI verified products for many, many years. And I really have found them to be the gold standard of input review because it's what they do. They're an agency that they're not a certifier, but they focus entirely on input review. And they have a list and they have a seal that you can look for. So certainly if you're looking for a potting mix, definitely look for the OMRI logo, or, certainly you can consider other certifiers, other Canadian certifiers do this too. But again, these will not be certified organic products, but they can be like approved for use in organic. So in these alternative standards, and I mean, I've talked about kind of the sort of upper level, the upper echelon of the kinds of programs that are out there. But then you're going to see other approval programs. And you may be wondering, how do I know if I can trust it? What does it do? I would encourage you to actually, go online, take a look at what the standard is asking, what it requires, what it's including. It might be very stringent. It might be less stringent, but perhaps focused on the areas of which you're most concerned. So just have a look. The other thing you can do is check the accreditation of the certifier. So I've talked about organic certifiers in Canada and the US and worldwide. They have to be accredited to be able to be part of this international program, right? And so who checks their work? We are accredited QAI by like the NOP, the CAEQ, which is an accreditor out of Quebec, but they accredit us for the EU standard, the Mexican standard, the Canadian standard. We're accredited by ANSI, and we're accredited to ISO 14001, and we're accredited to ISO 27001. Just recently, it's an information security standard because so much is online these days. So, we want to make sure that the operation that you're working with is above board and trustworthy. And that's all I think I have to say today. But thank you for the opportunity to talk. And I hope you all have a terrific organic week. And if you have any questions, please send them to info@organicweek.ca. Is that right, Tia?
Yep, we actually have a screen that we're going to put up right now. But thank you
Super.
so much, Roxanne. That was extremely insightful, and I hope that it kind of gives people some insights into the rigor of our organic certification system. I think a lot of people don't understand necessarily what's the methodology that goes into the inspections and the division between like the inspector and the certification body making the decision, and all the rigor that goes into that. And I think a lot of people have asked me, well, who oversees and polices the certification bodies to make sure that they're doing their job? And I think that's really important for them to know, that there is protocols that need to be followed and that you guys are inspected as well, as to make sure you're doing your job. So it's an excellent system, and you know, best in class. And I know the Canadian organic regime is respected worldwide. So thank you so much for taking the time today and being a part of our Organic Week celebrations. And
Thank you
please,
so
if you
much
do
too.
have any more questions, do feel free to send them on to us and we will forward them over to Roxanne. Thank you, everybody. Take care and have a good day. Thanks.